Hello everyone, in today's episode of the 1 Year Life Challenge, we're going to talk about being like water from the legendary Bruce Lee, how to get fit in the mind like Bruce and fit in the body like Bruce. Hello everyone, I'm super excited to talk about one of the first international superstars. It's hard to believe that, 60 years ago there were no global superstars, but there just wasn't, There were Asian superstars and European superstars, and sometimes American superstars would make it big in Europe, but there was no global superstars. And in my opinion, the first global superstar was Bruce Lee. As always, I'm going to begin with a quote on this subject, and that quote is, "If you always put limits on everything you do, physical or anything else, it will spread into your work and into your life. There are no limits, there are only plateaus, and you must not stay there, you must go beyond them." This guy, Bruce Lee, was an incredible individual, and he was all about understanding that the human mind and body were so connected. He fully understood that the limits were the labels you gave situations so you didn't have to push yourself harder. They were just plateaus. What he knew was that humans had an absolutely unbelievable potential, and he worked on his potential obviously to become one of the first international superstars. So let's learn from Bruce's philosophy on the mind in particular and some of his ancestry in this video.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Wow, be like water, my friend. Bruce Lee was a Taoist, and we talk about the yin-yang symbol in Taoism and Zen in this series because it's such a helpful philosophy to understand the world. Bruce Lee took the concepts of Zen and Taoism of being spontaneous and just acting and coming from your true heart and took it into his movies and his martial arts. Fitness was something that Bruce Lee was incredibly fond of. He understood that a fit mind would be served best by a fit body, and a fit body would be served by a fit mind, and he was all about eating clean before it was popular, staying fit, cardio, weights, resistance and martial arts way before any of these things were ever taken up by the West. 3, spontaneous action. As I mentioned before, Bruce Lee was all about coming from your heart, not rehearsing, not listening to other people's dogma. In fact, he abandoned his own martial arts style that he developed in reaction to the dogmatic styles because he thought, no, there should be no style, there should be simply you flowing from your state and from your mind and taking spontaneous action. So the tips that we've got from Bruce Lee and what we can learn from Bruce Lee, well, the first tip is, what are you really thinking about today? So Bruce Lee's famous quote was, "As you think, you shall become." Now we take it for granted that your thoughts can habituate your habits, and eliminating thoughts and coming from the spontaneous moment, which Bruce Lee talked about, is very, very important. What made Bruce Lee a success was he allowed himself not to overthink or overcomplicate. What Bruce Lee intuitively knew is he met so many greats around the world. There were a lot of people who talked the talk but didn't walk the walk, and he knew that was because they were overthinking and weren't coming from their spontaneous nature. Another lesson from Bruce Lee, simplify. Bruce Lee's statement was, "It's not the daily increase, but the daily decrease. Hack away at the unessentials." So what Bruce Lee knew, especially through martial arts, there was so much fluff laid over the top that ultimately what you really need was almost hidden. And don't we see that in other religions? Look at religions, it's just fluff, pomp, ceremony, Vatican billion-dollar apartments, and you go, well, hold on, what were the original messages? Wasn't it love and charity and hope? Where do we start, these television shows and, big churches and stuff like that? Simplify, bring it back to your life. Take everything that's unnecessary out of your life, and the space you create will be filled by your true potential. Number 3, learn about yourself in interactions. The quote being, "To know oneself is to study oneself in action with another person." No one will ever say or do anything that isn't a reflection of how they feel in the moment. That's the truth. I quite often, when people say to me, "Brad, it's interesting you didn't bite back at that comment or you have nothing to say," it's because I say that person's not talking to me. I would love to have a conversation with them, but they're not having a conversation with me. They're spitting out their internal belief systems about the world as they see it. It has nothing to do with me. I just happen to be the vehicle in front of it. So understanding how you act with other people is really important. Quite often you think you're giving people advice or you're telling them to do the right thing, when in reality you're having a conversation with yourself, and you should really think about the things you're saying to other people. Number 4, do not divide. The quote being, take no thought of who is right or wrong or who is better than, be not for or against. This comes from the concept of duality, that every time you constantly label things good, something must therefore be bad. So you constantly bring into existence extra thought patterns you don't need. Don't divide the world. This is what science unfortunately has, which is the classification of nature. Science doesn't really come up with anything. It simply classifies and understands things and then uses that classification and understanding to, build technologies and things like that. But it was just the classification that helped. Isn't the greatest way to go. When we classify and divide, we create race, gender, creed, sex, all these things which allow us to then divide people. We are just one universal superorganism in the universe, creating life and expressing ourselves. And every once in a while, a species comes along with a prefrontal cortex that can experience the universe subjectively and enjoy itself deliberately, which is what we are and what we are here to do. Number 5, avoid a dependency and validation from others. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you're not in this world to live up to mine. Wow, that's some deep stuff. Understand that what people think of you is none of your business, and it doesn't matter. Listen, what you think they think of you, they don't. You know why? Because they've got busy lives, And if you know 1,000 people, how much time can you devote to thinking about those 1,000 people every day in your life? You're not thinking about them, so stop worrying what people are thinking. Once again, what they're thinking is a reflection of how they feel in the moment. It's got nothing to do with you. The validation is also true. So I've started to understand that when people come up to me and say, Brad, I love your video series, amazing, it's life-changing, I'll say thank you. But in my head, I'm not taking it on board. I know that this present moment is so important that to give myself false pride or to think about being successful at something isn't what it's all about. So I understand that false pride and being attacked are both in the same boat. Don't require any external coordinates to decide on how amazing you are. You are the unique presence of the universe experiencing itself subjectively. That's all you need. It doesn't matter if your next door neighbour thinks you're no good. It's simply a reflection of how your next door neighbour sees the world right now in that moment. Because you know what? He might think you're great in a couple of days once he gets to know you. Number 6, be proactive. To hell with circumstances, I create opportunities, was the quote by Bruce Lee. Absolutely. You are a waymaker. So the way things are, which is just the present moment and how things are, you make your way through that moment as a waymaker. That Wu Wei, the Chinese concept of waymaking. You need to understand that you are a part of your environment and you can create your circumstances, and the way you see your environment is how it's reflected back to you as a mirror. And finally, number 7, very simply, be you. The quote Bruce Lee gave was, always be yourself, express yourself, have faith in yourself, do not go out and look for successful personality and duplicate it. I see this so often, people trying to copy or benchmark other people, when reality is they'll only ever be a poor carbon copy of that person. You have something unique to bring to the universe. Just like every plant seems to have, if you look in an ecosystem, every single plant seems to have some sort of medicine in it, whether it's pain relief or helps with asthma or cures cancer. You have something to bring to the universe, and when you find it, you have to let it shine. It's like when, we would find mold. There was mold that accidentally fell on an experiment during the 1920s and 30s, which created penicillin, which created antibiotics. So this mold, which no one cared for, has the ability to save lives. You just got to find it, because it went from penicillin went from being an ugly mold to a lifesaver just by seeing the special uniqueness in it. This is definitely something to think about. Bruce Lee is one of those flashes of light of universal consciousness who is strong enough in themselves to tell us the way the world is, the way they see it, so we can learn and grow from them. I'm incredibly thankful for Bruce Lee. He's given us so much to think about. I can't wait to see you tomorrow for the next installment of our 1 year journey. Until then, goodbye.